Do you know what ESG is? Sort of, sustainability investing?
I know what SRI is, which is not sustainability, but it's socially responsible investing.
Right. So ESG stands for environment, social
and
governance. Corporate, yeah. And it's a big thing these days.
Hi, welcome back to AWL Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wiseman. This is episode 8, and today we are here with Chris Benatti. Chris, if you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris Benatti. I'm the CEO and founder of Bedrock AI, and I'm super excited to be here today.
Awesome. So, Bedrock AI. Can you tell me how you came up with that name?
What's it mean? Great question. Yeah. There's no wonderful story. I wanted a strong, boring name that was in no way
connected to
anything much.
Okay. There is like a large hedge fund, right, called Bedrock, or am I?
There's BlackRock.
Okay. Same thing but different.
No. Yeah, everything in finance has a boring name.
Yeah.
Like Spruce or
green.
Goldman.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And can you tell me a little bit about what Bedrock AI is as far as the company goes?
Yeah, so fundamentally we're a team of researchers, but what we do is we use AI to process long-form corporate disclosure, so long-form securities filings, and I can talk a little bit about what that is and what that means.
Sure.
But we process long-form text that's very jargon-heavy, very dense, very hard to read.
Okay.
And we use that information to predict corporate crisis and also extract and identify red flags in text.
Okay. In text format.
Yeah. So when people think about evaluating corporate entities, evaluating an investment, usually people think about financial statement numbers.
Okay.
But the majority of what a corporate entity discloses to the market is in the form of text. It's long form disclosure.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an underused data source, poorly understood. It takes a fairly high degree of expertise to be able to read through it, and even people with a high degree of expertise, it takes them a really long time.
Okay.
So what we do is take an automated computational approach to try to extract the meaningful and important information from that, and also predict outcomes.
Okay, so obviously that sounds like a very, very important role that your company plays in regards to investing and things like that. Would this be something that a business would take on as far as a service goes if they are looking to prepare themselves to go public or anything like that, or am I thinking kind of too much to the right?
So that would essentially be a conflict of interest for us.
Okay.
There have been companies in the past who have looked at this problem more from a compliance perspective.
Yeah.
Make sure you're hitting all of the right rules. That's not what we do.
Okay.
We're not saying, company ABC didn't disclose X, therefore they're in violation of this part of US GAAP or this IFRS 16. That's not what we do.
Okay.
It's much more, we're not looking for one specific thing and matching it against something else.
Yeah.
We're identifying any and every red flag that is indicative or predictive of certain outcomes.
Okay.
And the outcomes we're focused on right now are high impact downside risk, but particularly earnings manipulation, corporate fraud, bad actors.
Yeah. So this kind of helps the company protect itself against internal damages that could be caused by.
So we're not out there to protect corporate entities.
Yeah.
We're helping other market actors, other stakeholders assess corporate entities.
Okay.
So we're, in order to maintain our independence, we don't offer any services to the corporate entities themselves.
So this would be something that stakeholders would apply to
Yeah.
the business that they're invested in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So any sort of stakeholder, a lender, someone providing insurance to a director or officer of a corporate entity, pension funds.
Would this be something that a bank would use if it's taking over or investing into a business?
Potentially.
Okay.
Yeah. M&A and corporate lending are definitely potential applications.
Okay. Who would you say your main clientele is currently? I understand that can change and evolve, but who would you say are the people or sectors that you guys are after right now as far as clients?
So our primary client base, particularly right now, are sophisticated investors who take a value-based approach to investing or a fundamentals-based approach to investing. So that's a distinction between, a quantitative investor who just essentially has an automated approach to trying to make money.
Yeah.
But the people we help are people who are trying to understand the fundamental value of a business and make trades based on that.
Yeah.
And we do cater to generally larger institutions, institutional investors, hedge funds, etc.
That sounds really badass. I'm gonna be honest, and the reason why I say that is because I would say in the last 6 months I've been obsessively learning and educating myself on wealth management, financial management, stock market, even cryptocurrencies, and really just trying to get a better grasp of money and fiat and futures and understanding how I can benefit, long term with smart, relatively safe investments. But of course, as a business owner as well, and someone who's invested and purchased other businesses even to help expand my own, this has been something that I've really wanted to get a better grasp on and really learn. And obviously I know that there's levels to this, and it sounds like the levels you're going to be working at are far and beyond, a retail investor, but much more so, unless that retail investor's got really deep pockets, because, why would they necessarily need to understand the ins and outs of a company that they're looking at trading or investing in, correct?
Yeah, so I think there's a few different reasons that we cater to larger institutions, but you're going to care a lot more about the underlying fundamentals of a business if you're taking a really large position.
Exactly.
And in general, I would say retail investors don't necessarily, not that they shouldn't care as much, but in general, they don't care as much about the fundamentals of the business.
Yeah, it's more of a speculative type ordeal with a retail trader, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are definitely exceptions to that rule, and I would say retail investors are becoming
more savvy,
more sophisticated, more savvy, particularly recently.
And with that being said, do you think that there'd be a future potential for your business to create an arm that is focused more towards the retail investor in a more broad spectrum?
That's an open question for sure. Something that's part of our mission as a company is trying to make corporate disclosure more understandable and consumable.
More accessible.
Yeah. And right now, it's not being consumed well, even by very sophisticated people.
Yeah.
Just because it's hard to consume. It's who wants to read 300 pages
No one.
of accounting jargon?
For sure.
Accounting and legal jargon. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I do from time to time, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
So we would love to get to a place where we're able to have a product that helps everyone understand what's going on at these corporate entities. And part of the reason I feel so passionate about this is because when bad actors, when fraudsters get away with things, they make a ton of money, and retail investors are usually also hedge funds, but
they're the scapegoat.
Lots of people lose a lot of money
for sure.
And fraudsters, bad corporate actors generally don't get caught.
Yeah.
But if there was a general, better general knowledge of these topics, that would happen a lot less.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are really going to be, and again, go back to that sense of protection, which I know isn't necessarily what you're trying to say, but that's kind of how I'm perceiving it. It's like you're going to be protecting investors from giving them accessible information that if they didn't have, could lead them to
help them protect themselves. Is the ultimate desire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's awesome. I think that's so cool. So obviously you've been working on this over the last year, correct?
Yeah, a bit longer than that.
Okay.
I think I quit my job November 2019.
I remember that day. Yeah. I remember you talking to me about it. Talking about thinking about quitting and what your idea was, and I don't even remember if you gave me a straight answer as far as what the idea really entailed, and if you did, you went in one ear and went out the other. And at that point, I don't think I was so focused on financial kind of literature and or literacy and understanding those things. So, but now I am, and it's super interesting to me. And tell me a little bit about what that process has looked like from day one to quitting your job to now, and some of the ups and downs that you've gone through, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners that watch these podcasts, and I'm sure that they would love to hear your perspective and experience a little bit.
Yeah, well, mad respect to all of the entrepreneurs listening, because I know I didn't sleep well for about 2 months after I quit my job.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think for me, the pandemic has been beneficial to the business, but I really feel So
explain to me how it's been beneficial.
So lots of tech talent without a job at the very beginning. That's how, that's...
Why do you think that is? Because I would assume that anyone who worked in tech probably had a safe job. I mean, did the tech sector suffer, I guess, in the first few months?
Yes, everything suffered. Okay. Yeah, I knew the people who had job offers, and then the pandemic hit, and they didn't have any job offers.
I guess because everyone just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, so no one knew what was happening, and it started coming back fairly recently in a big way. But and then before the pandemic hit, I was getting pressured to provide office space.
Yeah.
And the markets performed pretty well.
Yeah.
Like my customer base are generally pension funds, institutional investors, hedge funds.
Yeah.
They have suffered, but
that's a good clientele base to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had the opportunity of any types of because I know that pre-COVID, when working with clientele like this, there's often a lot more person-to-person networking necessary. Maybe not in your case, but in general, I know that they like to schmooze and necessarily fluff up a product to win over investors or even to build connections and relationships with other businesses that can benefit each other. Have you been experiencing any of that, or is that kind of not necessarily anywhere close to happening due to the situations we're in?
Yeah, so I think one benefit we have as a business is what we do is inherently sexy.
Yeah.
And while we have primarily been in stealth startup mode, we haven't been advertising. When people hear about what we do, they're interested. They want to hear more.
Yeah.
So a lot of, our beta users, they found out about us either through word of mouth or I did one interview with Alex Danko, who's a pretty big name in the venture capital
What's
space.
his name? I'm going to look him up.
Alex Danko.
How do I spell the last name?
Danco. He used to work at Social Capital. Who's the Chamath is the...
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah.
Awesome. And does he work with Shopify?
He does, yeah.
Okay, cool. What's he do with it?
Oh, goodness.
I'm looking him up on LinkedIn right now.
I have no idea.
So you did an interview with him?
Via his newsletter.
Okay.
So we got some interest there, but yeah, it's been very organic interest from a sales perspective, and we haven't really done any selling per se.
Okay.
We've reached out to some people that I can consider quite important in
Yeah.
this space,
Yeah.
and incredibly they respond to our emails and want to chat, want to demo, all of
Yeah.
that stuff. So it's been pretty easy
Yeah.
from that perspective. And I think there is this perspective that everyone in finance at hedge funds, they're all douchebags, they're all very unfriendly, and that's
Yeah.
not been my experience at all.
I agree. I think like anything, there's always bad actors in any industry.
Yeah.
And oftentimes those bad actors get the majority of the press.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we see. But in general, from the people I've met, the people I know who are in this industry, whether it's medium to high level, very helpful, and they want to see other people succeed generally.
Yeah.
They're very pro economy, and generally that means the more people succeed, the more the economy grows. And that's always beneficial long term, right? To a degree. But that's awesome. And so going back to...
How are you not freezing, by the way?
Well,
For anyone listening, it's like -14 in this
It's actually 20 degrees upstairs. It's probably closer to 18 here. I don't know. I said it, I guess, for my blood, my body heat. I'm sorry that you're cold.
Shaking as we're...
But it's good that you're cold, because what being cold does for your brown fat cells.
I have brown fat cells.
Yeah, so there's different types of adipose tissue in the body, which is fat tissue. And in certain parts, and mainly in your upper back, between your scapula, there's brown fat cells. Some people have more than others, but when your brown fat cells are exposed to colder temperatures than you're normally used to, they activate and actually increases your metabolic rate. So that means you can eat more today. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks.
I'm doing you a favor.
I'm so glad.
I'm trying to make sure that you can have an extra steak or an extra whatever it is that you
Right. You might as well
normally
have just put me on a treadmill for this interview.
standing treadmill podcast. Yeah, I don't know if I'm up for that, but it would be weird for me to sit down and watch you sprint your life away. But maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
So tell me a little bit about the tech talent that you were able to kind of find. Like, what kind of people were you hiring? Who would you say, or skill set wise, what is most important to your business right now?
Yeah, so good question. And something I should mention is I don't think I gave my background at all, but I'm a chartered accountant, and I also have a degree in data. Spent a number of years working as a data scientist at a governance advisory firm. So
you're big brain things, you know what I mean? Like,
sorry?
You're what I call big brain things. Like you're a smart person. You don't fall into those. You don't get those degrees and fall into that line of work with a small mind.
Well, I hope you're right.
Let's hope for the sake of your company.
For the sake of the company.
Yeah.
For the sake of everyone working with me, that you're right. Worked as a data scientist in and around some of the things I do today.
Yep.
But some of the skills I don't have are the really deep learning neural network type research.
Yeah.
Which is obviously very powerful, and we've, as an AI community, there's been some major breakthroughs that have happened.
Like what?
In text processing.
Okay.
There's been many breakthroughs all over the spectrum,
Yeah.
but what I'm specifically interested in text processing, I think the more obvious breakthrough that happened before the text processing breakthrough was in computer vision. So when you think about self-driving cars, that's computer vision, right?
Yeah.
It's being able...
Like LiDAR and stuff like that.
Sorry?
LiDAR, stuff like that.
Yeah, being able to
see
things and identify what's a stop sign. That's computer vision.
Okay.
And that's done using deep learning, using neural networks.
That's kind of like what Tesla and some of those other soon-to-be automated self-driving vehicles are kind of focused on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there have been some major breakthroughs in that area of research. And then, in about 2018 maybe, some similar level breakthroughs were made in text processing.
Yep.
where essentially what happened is we're able to now teach computers context.
That's crazy to think.
Yeah. So instead of,
I don't even understand how that's possible. Because like context, most human beings struggle with that.
Yeah. So not a ton of context.
Yeah.
Just simple things like. So in the past, when you wanted a computer to, understand a word, usually it was looking at that word more or less in a vacuum.
Okay.
And if you wanted it to know what word came before or what came after, you'd have to include that one before and include it after, and then the computational requirements just completely blow up.
Yeah.
But what we're able to do now is represent a word as a vector, as sort of a list of numbers.
Yeah.
And so that one vector, that one representation of that word contains information not just about the word, but also about how it's related to the other words in the sentence. Is it the object or the subject of the sentence?
That's crazy. And our brains do that naturally.
Yeah.
But for me to even try to explain that, I would not be able to, because that sounds like a lot of vectors you'd have to take into consideration, a lot of pinning the lines to different kind of points, right? Like there's probably a pretty in-depth list of things it has to connect to, right?
Right, and that's why it's important that it's learned instead of it is taught to some degree, but it's not. We're not coding heuristics. We're not saying, if this word is a verb, then do this.
Do you think that changes the future of coding? Having something that can learn what you want without having to input the data?
Absolutely. So something that, I think anyone listening will find fascinating is if you haven't looked up GPT-3. Have you heard of GPT-3? GPT-3. Yeah, so it's this massive language model.
Yeah.
So it's a model that's been trained on essentially
human-like text,
all of the text on the internet.
Wow.
So it can do incredible things.
Yeah.
And
this is new.
This is fairly new. Yeah.
Open AI, right?
Open AI.
Okay.
So GPT-3 is a great example of sort of what's possible now with language models, with text processing. And one of the things that you can do with GPT-3 is, someone made a little app from it where you describe the website you want and it writes the code in the background.
And that's crazy.
Yeah, but you're just, you describe functionality in free-form text.
Yeah.
It's imperfect,
okay.
And it will start writing the code.
But I'm sure it will improve to the point where it does it better than a human being.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, isn't that what AI is? The goal of AI is to be able to do things we can't?
So that's definitely, so I would say when you work in AI, you both think AI is super impressive and super useful, but you also become an AI skeptic because you start learning in what ways it fails and how stupid it can be.
For sure.
And it is stupid.
But it's in its infancy, and that's why.
I mean, is it in its infancy? We've had neural networks since the 80s.
I know, but I don't see AI not becoming an absolute generational revolution, with regards to its long-term capabilities of how it manages and takes over so many industries with regards to people needing to do XYZ. Now AI automates it all, probably does it faster and more efficiently. Yeah. You don't see that happening?
I definitely, it's already doing that.
And that would likely
we've already automated a lot of industries.
But that's probably a lot more so based off of the person who's going to develop the next AI system, as it is the AI learning itself, or do you think the AI could do it itself?
Could do what?
Teach itself to be significantly better than it is today.
Oh, Yeah, I think we're making great progress.
Yeah.
And, there's
it's crazy to think about.
But there's something my CTO says from time to time is we're in a sort of a AI hype period.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a hype period, it's generally followed by disillusionment.
Yeah.
And, an AI winter.
Which is what?
So, everyone is so excited about AI and they expect it to make such dramatic improvements in everything we do so quickly. And on the other hand, you have people who are trying to implement it in all of these different areas and going, wow, this is not what people promised.
Yeah.
This needs a lot more hand-holding than we expected. It fails so dramatically in these areas. When the tools we build don't live up to the hype.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden it seems like a failure, but
yeah,
in reality, it's not your fault that the hype was too large. You're just focusing.
No, I mean, I think our product does live up to the hype.
For sure. and then some. And because it's AI based, it's only going to get significantly better as new tech and new AI improves, right?
Yeah, so tech's not really, we couldn't just rely on out-of-the-box technology to build what we built.
Okay.
We spent almost a full year in just pure research, trying to get things to work, because the way that language models are set up, they don't work well with long text.
Yeah.
And it's hard, like, if something's hard for a human, it's going to be hard for, if it's hard for us to understand the context of these documents, it's going to be really hard for a model to explain as well. So we've had to put in place a very sort of complex backend.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is very human driven, right? It's all about domain expertise. It's all about understanding, trying to teach the model based on what I know as someone who's read a lot of these, pointing it in the right direction.
Yeah.
Getting rid of noise. Noise reduction is just telling the model what it shouldn't be paying attention to is a huge problem.
Okay.
So
what do you mean by problem?
Just
like a lot of work.
So it's a problem for long form.
Okay.
Like long form text, and also for what we do. If you could imagine, if a corporate entity is going to write 300 pages, most of that is going to be useless information.
As always.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you models? Right now, AI models are work best on text that's a few sentences long. So how do you make sure that if you're trying to predict an outcome with 300 pages of information, the main issue there is how do you make sure the model doesn't get completely confused by all the completely useless information?
That's crazy to think that, because me thinking it has to understand context alone, and I'm thinking reading a website, a blog, probably a million times easier than all this legal jargon and just random legalities and legal words, right, that are probably put into these documents. And now it has to understand what to pay attention to and what is noise. You know what I mean? Ugh, man, my brain just explodes thinking about that.
No, it's a really hard technical problem, and that was a lot of what we were working on.
And are other companies doing the same thing, trying to solve the same problem? Or would you guys say you're one of the premier current startups? I don't know if I should be even calling you a startup, but premier companies that have taken on that task and are overcoming it?
There are a ton of people working on similar tasks.
Yeah.
So, but no one, as far as I know, no other group of researchers has
gotten
made
as
the
far as
breakthroughs that we have.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're really excited about it. We're really excited that we were able to turn it into a product.
Yeah.
I think we could have published 4 or 5 papers by now, which is awesome. Like, a credit to my CTO.
Yeah.
A lot more than it is to me.
So when are you going to? So you're done beta, or
We
you
are
still?
finishing up beta.
So then, what is the next step?
Oh, we're exiting stealth mode, and trying to grow
Yeah.
pretty quickly. That's the plan.
Does that mean investments?
We're considering doing a fundraising round, yes, definitely. But we're also looking at, so we have this core technology. Right now, we've been very focused on corporate fraud, earnings manipulation, more accounting specific risks. But we want to use our core technology to address a broader array of issues.
Yeah.
So credit risk, bankruptcy, but also, do you know what ESG is? Sort of, sustainability investing.
I know what SRI is, which is not sustainability, but it's socially responsible investing.
Right. So ESG stands for environment, social
and corporate,
governance, and it's a big thing these days.
Big time. I think that is like going to be pretty huge for most investors long term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's a disclosure nightmare. No one knows how to make people appropriately disclose.
Yeah. Do you mind moving a bit closer to the mic? Yeah.
No one knows how to make corporate entities appropriately disclose that information.
Okay.
So it's
the ESG stuff.
Yeah. Well, the governance stuff, there is already required disclosure.
Of course.
For environment, the UK believe has implemented the mandatory disclosure for climate change.
Well, social is going to be a big thing.
Yeah. And then social, we're already seeing some things come out.
Yeah.
So the ratio of CEO pay to employee pay, policies around this, that, and the other thing. So that's all going to be unstructured text.
Yeah.
It's all going to suffer some of the same problems that we're trying to solve right now or have solved already. So we think it's a pretty good fit for the business. So we're going to look at exploring some of these new opportunities that are, it's going to be a huge market very soon.
So you guys will technically be in a position where you can take on a function of analyzing ESG.
That is something we're exploring.
Yeah.
We're currently talking about it as a team, so I don't want to jump the gun.
Of course. But of course, that will double, your ability and what value you offer and what markets you can kind of work within, or what types of tasks people that would hire you can kind of focus on, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love watching investment shows or like talking and listening to investors speak. And I know how important, environmental and social impacts are, especially nowadays. It's top of mind. There's no worse thing to a large corporation or company than knowing you're being canceled because you are environmentally damaging or socially unethical, right? Or lacking in ethics. So I think any company that's worth their weight in gold are definitely sprinting towards, implementing these strategies and understanding how can we get this information out, how can we improve on it, and how can we make sure we're being held responsible to our actions and improving, right? Improving our corporate structure and making sure we're not just making money, but we're doing better for the world.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or am I kind of...
there's definitely a lot of focus on it, and if you don't start... Yeah, it's a huge reputational risk if you don't
Reputation's everything.
Do these things.
Yeah.
But where we're coming from it is less how the companies present themselves in the media and more how they disclose information formally.
Okay.
Which right now there aren't a lot of formal requirements around the E and the S. There are around the G, but we're expecting to see a ton of formal requirements coming in soon.
For sure.
Around the E and the S.
Now, would you say that your clientele base is more U.S. based, or is it both, like all of North America equally?
More U.S. based.
I would assume so. Yeah. Now, your products and what you guys are offering, can this be something that can be integrated into the stock market in any way?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, like, for example, the Bloomberg articles that gather the information from companies when they're disclosing their quarters and their earnings and the future news and potentials. Obviously, you have a journalist, and probably I know that marketing and a lot of these companies use AI to formulate articles based off of information that they've been given. But, is there a way that you guys can kind of implement things, or a possibility where you guys would implement your product in a way that people can log in and then watch the stock market, as in like looking at their trading software, but then have almost like a plugin, and it shows kind of like little things that would pop up that they go click. What's this mean? So that they know if they're seeing high volume enter the marketplace for that stock, and all of a sudden they're starting to see everything climb. They can have another tool to look at and go, oof, I don't know if people know about this. I'm going to hold off.
Right. So a couple comments there. So we do actually, part of our product is a dashboard, a web-based dashboard where our users can look up any stock.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah. We don't provide real-time trading information because they have that all through other tools.
Yeah.
But on your comment around news, it's definitely something we've thought about. Is there a way to push some of these red flags that we're extracting through some sort of news service? I don't think that's something we'd do anytime soon.
That would be a good idea, though.
Yeah.
Because, obviously that's a whole other realm, but, having, especially on a marketing kind of standpoint, having something that releases, important information where investors can look at it and go, okay, the information that they put out is high value and has actually impacted my trades in a very positive way. I'd like to go ahead and invest on this product and get it, implemented into what I do, right? Would that not be beneficial?
Yeah, well, we do really want to get paid.
Yeah,
and if you're
awesome.
giving information away for free.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to give away information for free. I totally agree. But of course, I'm sure you guys can pick and choose what level of content is reasonable to give away to pull in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So going a bit deeper, what are you guys planning as far as marketing for the company goes?
Yeah, so you can follow us at AI Bedrock.
Okay. On Instagram?
Oh, not on Instagram, only on Twitter.
Twitter, okay.
I can't imagine what photos we put on Instagram.
Just a lot of computerized looking brains. That's what you always see when you're looking up AI. It's like something that looks like the Matrix person's skull, and then things falling down. And that's AI for sure. So what is it? AI?
At AI Bedrock. And we also have a newsletter on Substack that's recently become active called Dirty Laundry.
Substack?
Substack?
Stack. I've never even heard of that.
Really? Do you even read newsletters?
No.
Wow, okay.
So Substack, what
And all of your listeners have heard of Substack.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to be the one that's left out. So I guess it's a newsletter based.
Substack is how everyone puts out their newsletters these days. Not everyone.
Is it like a software?
It's a SaaS service that allows you to easily put out a newsletter, and you can find that also through our website.
Yeah.
bedrock-ai.com.
Which I'm on right now. It's a nice looking website.
There's not a ton of information on our website.
Yeah.
Maintaining this shroud of mystery.
Yeah.
But we are going to be, as of April, we are doing our product launch this month. So we're going to become a lot more active.
Yeah.
So we are going to be releasing some information, some red flags that we found in low risk and high risk companies that might impact, your impression of that company. And
which I'm always happy to hear, because I do invest, and I don't do so with a high level of analysis. I'm much more of a speculative trader than anything else, because I don't have the skill set to read through huge amounts of information. I'm just like, I can see this being beneficial 10 years from now, and that's kind of how I make my decisions. I'm like, I can see this changing the world in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't. If I'm buying an individual stock, I only do so with the amount of money I'm willing to lose.
Right.
Then what I put into just a auto-regulated or auto-managed portfolio is much safer, and it's just like spreads it and diversifies it a lot more, and then the rest goes into good old crypto. So speaking about crypto, are you guys thinking about running any of your stuff off of blockchain or anything like that?
We don't do anything that has anything to do with crypto, except find crypto promo stocks that have nothing going on.
What do you mean promo stocks?
So because crypto is so hot, we identify corporate fraud, pump and dump schemes, all of those types of things. So whenever there's something that's working well for some people, there's going to be a lot of other bad actors coming in who are just going to, try to take people's money for nothing.
Okay.
And that's very prevalent in AI and definitely right now in anything related to blockchain or crypto.
Yeah.
So the only relationship we have with anything to do with cryptocurrency, with blockchain, is identifying and helping investors identify and separate between good actors and bad actors.
So would you and your company ever take investment, or not even necessarily investment, but a client? If they wanted to pay you in a form of crypto, would you ever take it?
I can't imagine that ever happening in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
we tend to work with pretty
fiat-based,
old school
regulated
people. Yeah. These are people who read.
You're saying that people that like crypto don't read?
Well, it's an old school form of investing.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So you are working with people like my uncle. Yeah, I know who those people are, and those are the people that always go. They like to yell at me. I don't do anything stupid.
Okay.
I'm just
if any of my users ever listen to this, I apologize for calling you old school, and you don't ever yell at me. So
no. Like, I don't mean it in a negative context. It's more so it's like they are definitely more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to this, and so I appreciate the yelling because I'm like okay, I understand that you have an opinion about this, and it's going to make me tread a bit more carefully.
Yeah.
Because if he said go for it, I would just jump in, but because he has a strong opinion, I'm much more risk averse. I don't jump in. I take my time, and I don't ever overextend myself. I just go, okay, I have a little bit of this, toss it. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's never a thing where I'm like, dump everything I have, hope to God it works. No. I would never do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's nothing wrong with speculative investing, in my opinion. A lot of the reason the capital markets work is because a whole bunch of people are speculating on what they think is going to work out, and that's how price discovery works. And you need that.
And also, that is how a lot of people have made money. But it's also how a lot of people have lost money.
It's how a lot of people have lost money, and we're in a bull market right now. Everyone's operating on
in the stock market.
the stock
which
market.
seems, the last 3-4 weeks have been ridiculous. Like watching CNBC and just like crash on this day, up this day, crash this day, tech sector's down, blah blah blah. It's just like flipping and flopping, right? But I guess that's much more of an automated thing than we probably would like to believe. Because you see all of a sudden the tech sector is down, and all of a sudden the recovery sector is up. And then the next day the recovery sector is down and the tech sector is up. And you just got to wonder if that's just automatic switching based off of...
Something that happened recently, what's the name of there was a family fund that just went completely under. And so there's been a lot...
They're a FANG-based fund.
Sorry?
They're from China. That family.
Yeah, it's Tiger.
It's called Tiger or Fang or something like that.
Arca something.
Yeah, let me look.
I should know that. I read it in the news every day. Not sure why I can't recall the name, but because they
Tiger Management Corp.
Because they went under a bunch of stocks.
Because they were overextended. Their margin was too high.
Ton.
Yeah.
And
they're done.
And they had really large positions in stocks, I guess, through call options or something, that they essentially undisclosed large outstanding positions in a whole bunch of companies.
Yeah.
So you've seen some pretty
very volatile.
Yeah.
Which much more than normal, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not super I haven't been in the stock market very long. I would say in the last 6 months.
Okay.
So I'm new.
Yeah.
I'm a newbie, right? But I've also done well. I got lucky on a few things. I didn't play around with any of the GameStop stuff. I'm not that stupid. but hey, some people made a lot of money. But I don't like to gamble.
Yeah.
I like to try my best.
Yeah. And that I think the thing is, as long as you're aware of the risk. And
then it's okay.
Then it's okay.
So long as you're not putting more than you have, right?
Right. But I mean, people should keep in. This is a bubble.
Yeah.
Anyone who tells you otherwise is deluding themselves.
Okay.
I mean, people say, inflation makes all of these asset prices legitimate.
But inflation is not good for the stock market, especially hyperinflation, right? Because that's going to crash the dollar, won't it? Like the USD? It'll make the dollar less.
Right, but it will make...
You will be able to get less with it.
But it will make debt very cheap and...
That's true. And also the debt you have will become much cheaper, right? Is that what you're suggesting? There's benefits and there's pros, there's cons.
There's pros, there's cons. Generally, it means that it makes more sense to invest in a company that's actually doing something instead of holding cash.
Yeah.
So, the benefit to investing in the stock market is...
So there's benefits for sure.
Yeah. It's much higher when you're in a hyperinflationary situation.
Yeah.
However, even so, a lot of the valuations that you're seeing, some of these companies... they don't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And when you're in this type of bubble type scenario, it is higher risk.
Yeah.
But as long as you're keeping that in mind, it's probably going to take a while. I would say at least a year for the bubble to pop.
Yeah.
Or to, this is going to stick around until people have something better to do with their time.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a risk of
when the bubble pops. Do you think it's going to be a correction or a crash? It's hard to say.
Completely honest, that I'm not here to speculate on where the stock market's going to go. My area of expertise is not in trading. It's not in trading stocks.
Yeah.
It's in understanding a company and their financial statements, understanding their risk, etc.
Yeah.
I'm not a trader. I'm not a quantitative investor.
So with that being said, being that is your expertise, what are the ethical kind of boundaries that you must set for yourself, having access to this information when it comes to your own investments?
That's easy. I have no money because I put it
all into your business.
All into my business.
That's going to change though. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm no genius, but I think you're impressive, and I know that your business is going to be a mega beast in probably just a matter of a year from now. And I don't think you can fathom what's about to happen. I can see it coming. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's going to change. Like, it's going to be crazy. Like, in a year from now, it's going to be hard for me to get you on our podcast unless my podcast absolutely blows up. And speaking of which, make sure that you smash the like button and give us a subscribe, because we really appreciate it. But back to this. Yeah. No, it only makes sense that this is an absolutely important tool and company entering the financial and entering the corporate world. It's necessary. And like you said, this doesn't really exist in the way it needs to. Yeah. And this is going to make things a lot cleaner and a lot easier. And there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to know that you are there and they can't mess around anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys are going to almost become like the line in the sand that if anyone wants a legitimate investment, they have to cross through that line. And if it's not pretty, it's on them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I both hope to get there, and also one thing I will say is because it is AI, I don't think our predictions I know our predictions will never be 100%.
Yeah.
We're never going to uncover every single red flag. We're never going to get it completely right. So I don't want to ever end up in a situation where there's over-reliance on our systems.
Yeah.
You know, they're imperfect, just as humans are imperfect.
Yeah, it's a tool. It needs to be added to your overall.
I don't want a world where a corporate entity has to pass our automated threshold in order to get investment. I don't think that's fair. I think it's a tool that you use in conjunction with your human judgment to make a decision about whether or not a company is worthy of your investment.
So do you think that people would prefer human judgment over artificial intelligence?
Well, do they prefer human judgment?
Or will they?
Will they?
In the next 5 years?
I think it depends on the context. And I can definitely see situations where one will outperform the other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you've blown my mind, and I think I need to spend some time thinking about everything that you've just explained to me and start doing some research, because the AI that you guys are putting together and everything that you guys are doing really sounds awesome. And so it's a perfect time for us to wrap up. But is there anything you want to say to our watchers or listeners? You want to shout out where they can find you one more time?
Yeah, well, do your research before you invest. It's something I should put out there.
Please.
Yes.
Due diligence.
Yeah, do your due diligence. Open the annual report, perhaps. That would make me happy. And we're Bedrock AI. You can find us on Twitter at AI Bedrock. You can find us on LinkedIn, Bedrock AI.
Yeah, we're going to link your Twitter in our description, so that way
Perfect.
If anyone wants to find you.
Yeah, and we're going to be a lot more active on Twitter. Social media in the next month. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, this has been really, really fun. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully maybe in the next 3 months, you'll have some more news to share.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Awesome. Really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Again, make sure that you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, turn it on, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.